and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha Television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. No tax on income up to 3 lakh rupees, 5% tax on income up to 5 lakh rupees, 10% surcharge on income between 50 lakh and 1 crore. Highest ever allocation for Narendra increased to 48,000 crore rupees. Proposal to use space technology to monitor implementation. Donations above 2,000 rupees to political parties only through checks, digital mode or electoral bonds. Proposal to ban cash transactions above 3 lakh rupees from April 1st. No service charge on train e-tickets from April 1st. Rail Safety Fund with corpus of 1 lakh crore rupees over 5 years proposed. Budget reflects commitment to eliminate corruption, devoted to well-being of farmers and poor, says Prime Minister. Congress says there's nothing for farmers or on job creation. Well, the Finance Minister announced a tax bonanza by reducing income tax for income between 2.5 and 5 lakh rupees from 10% to 5%. However, to offset losses in revenue due to this tax cut, a proposal to levy 10% new surcharge for incomes from 50 lakh rupees to 1 crore rupees has also been made.
The Finance Minister addressing post-demonetization expectations for a reduction in tax burden.
I propose to reduce the existing rate of taxation for individual assessees between the income 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs to 5% instead of the present rate of 10%. This would reduce the tax liability of all persons below rupees 5 lakhs income either to zero with a rebate or 50% of their existing liability.
Jaitley also proposing not to impose any tax on income up to rupees 3 lakh.
In order not to have any duplication of benefit, the existing benefit of rebate available to the same group of beneficiaries being reduced to 2,500 available only if to the assessees with income up to 3.5 lakhs. The combined effect of both these measures will mean that there would be a zero tax liability for a person getting income up to 3 lakh rupees and a tax liability of only 2,500 for people with an income of 3 to 3.5 lakhs.
However, to offset the revenue loss following relief to taxpayers, Jaitley also proposed a new surcharge of 10% on incomes between 50 lakh and 1 crore rupees.
I propose to levy a surcharge of 10% of tax payable on this category of individual whose annual taxable income is between 50 lakhs and 1 crore. The existing surcharge of 15% on people earning more than 1 crore will continue. This is likely to give me an additional revenue of rupees 2,700 crores.
While the surcharge alone would net 2,700 crores a year, the reduction of the tax burden will result in a loss of 15,500 crore rupees. Jaitley also made a proposal to expand the tax net.
In order to expand the tax net, I plan to have a simple one-page form to be filed as an income tax return in the category of income individuals having a taxable income up to rupees 5 lakh other than business income. Also, a person of this category who files an income tax return for the first time would not be subject to any scrutiny for the first year unless there is some specific information available with the department with regard to any high-value transaction.
The finance minister said that his proposals on excise and customs duties will not result in any significant loss or gain to the exchequer. However, there are a host of items that will either become cheaper or dearer. LED bulbs, solar panels, wind-operated energy generators are among the items that will be cheaper. Cigarettes, tobacco, pan masala and silver coins are among items that will become costlier. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat on the Bulletin right now is Rajesh Mahapatra, Executive Editor of the Hindustan Times. Good evening, Rajesh. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining me on the program. You know, as far as the income tax and the Aam Aadmi is concerned, what are the highlights from this budget?
Well, I think there has been some relief for the...
Go on. Can hear you.
Can you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can
Go
you
on,
hear me?
please. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think as the finance minister said, there was a legitimate expectation from a certain segment of taxpayers for some relief to come their way. And he has done that by way of providing, by cutting the tax rate, almost halving it for people who have a taxable income between 2.5 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees. And this reduction sort of also accrues to people who are in tax brackets above those. So in other words, up to 50 lakhs, people would get 12,500 rupees or a little more than that depending on where they stand by way of tax relief. Now, I would have expected more to come from the finance minister. The expectation, I would say this probably fell a little short of what people had expected. But I think the more important measure that he has taken is to have provided some relief to the smaller enterprises, companies with a turnover of less than 50 crore. They will now pay tax at 25% as compared to 30% that were levied on them earlier. I think this is a big source of relief, especially for this this segment, which largely leans on a lot of cash transactions. A good part of it is kind of associated with the informal sector, and they have been badly hit by demonetization. And this is also a segment that is labor intensive. So, you know, we have had jobs being lost in the aftermath of demonetization. Perhaps this is a measure that could help recover some ground over there.
Indeed. You know, as far as indirect taxes are concerned, there has been, no change in indirect taxes, clearly a direction towards GST.
Yeah, I think it's fair because the government is expecting to roll out GST from July, and it would not have been prudent on the part of the finance minister to have really done major changes over there. I think he has left it for that day, and I think that's the right call. What I wanted to point out is that there is a bit of concern that one could have if you look closely at the tax numbers that the finance minister has projected. The corporate tax collections are projected to grow at 9%. Now that's a matter of concern. It tells me that even the government is not very confident that the corporates, which have been in kind of a sluggish mode and which had aggravated post demonetization, are expected to bounce back soon. And you talked about indirect taxes. He hasn't touched any. He hasn't made major changes. But if you look at the revenues that he is projecting, it's very minimal growth that is being projected, which tells me, is the government fearing that the consumption or the consumer spending will remain sluggish for some more time to come? Because the entire tax numbers, if you see, they are leaning on almost 25% growth in personal taxes. And that also, I would say, is not a very big number, given the fact that we have 2 installments of income disclosure scheme that are due for payment in the next financial year. So when you are assuming that the economy would grow at 12%, and you are looking at a 12% growth in your tax earnings, and then you tell me that demonetization has left us with so much data that we can leverage it and really truly expand the tax net, that story it becomes a little difficult to buy. So there is there is some disconnect. You know, if I were to accept your argument that demonetization is really going to help you widen the tax net, widen the tax base, and the economy is likely to grow at 12%, that's 12% is the nominal GDP growth, which I understand is assuming a 7% real economic growth and about roughly 4.5% to 5% inflation growth. So that's a 12% nominal GDP growth. Then why is the government assuming a 12% growth in tax collection? I would say that's a very conservative estimate. Either that's a very conservative estimate, or that the government itself doesn't have confidence or conviction in what it is saying, that a recovery is around the corner.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Rajesh Mahapatra, thanks so much for joining us there with those details and putting things into perspective for us. Now, the finance minister also termed demonetization as a bold and decisive measure aimed at hitting a parallel economy that has been running for years. He further stated that demonetization seeks to create a new normal wherein the GDP would be bigger, cleaner and real. Jaitley further said that drop in economic activity on account of currency squeeze is expected only to have a temporary impact. He, however, highlighted the potential that currency ban offers, which includes a greater digitization of the economy, reiterating that promoting digital economy is an integral part of the government's strategy to clean the system. Jaitley said India is now on the cusp of a massive digital revolution.
The Committee on Digital Payments, constituted by the Department of Economic Affairs, has recommended structural reforms in the payment and ecosystem, including payments, amendments to the Payment and Settlements System Act 2007. Government will undertake a comprehensive review of this act and bring about an appropriate amendment. To begin with, it is proposed to create a payment regulatory board in the Reserve Bank of India by replacing the existing Board of Regulation and Supervision of the Payment and Settlement Systems. Necessary amendments are proposed to this effect in the Finance Bill 2017.
Well, it may have been part of the general budget this time, but Finance Minister Arun Jaitley did ensure that the railways got its share. A slew of measures were announced with a focus on enhancing safety and improving infrastructure. Here are the details.
For the first time since independence, there was no separate budget for the railways. With the finance minister presenting the first combined budget of independent India, the focus was on synergizing investments in railways, roads, waterways and civil aviation. The focus in railways will be on four major areas: passenger safety, capital and development works, cleanliness and finance and accounting reforms.
For passenger safety, a rail Sanraksha Kosh will be created, a safety fund, with a corpus of rupees 1 lakh crores over a period of 5 years. Besides seed capital from the government, the railways will arrange the balance from its own resource avenues and other sources. The government will lay down clear-cut guidelines for timeline for implementation of various safety works to be funded from this course. Unmanned level crossings on broad gauge lines will be eliminated by 2020. Expert international assistance will be harnessed to improve safety preparedness and maintenance practices.
The output of the Indian Railways has been proposed to be enhanced by 10% in the next 3 years. This will be done through modernization and upgradation of identified corridors. For passengers, service charge on rail tickets booked through IRCTC is to be withdrawn, while 500 stations will be made differently abled friendly by providing lifts and escalators.
It is proposed to feed around 7,000 stations with solar power in the medium term. A beginning has already been made in 300 stations. Work will be taken up for 2,000 railway stations as a part of the 1,000 megawatt solar mission. Our focus is on Swachh Railways. SMS-based Clean My Coach service has been started. It is now proposed to introduce a Coach Mitra facility, a single window interface to register all coach-related complaints and requirements. By 2019, all coaches of Indian Railways will be fitted with bio-toilets.
The Finance Minister also announced the creation of new employment opportunities in the railways with the announcement of a new metro rail policy. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And financing.
Well, from constructing 1 crore houses for the homeless by 2019 to announcing completion of 100% electrification of villages by May 2018, the Finance Minister unveiled many measures for the rural and infrastructure sector. Among his announcements, a new metro rail policy, select airports in Tier 2 cities to be taken up for the operations on PPP mode, new railway lines and differently able-friendly stations.
Presenting his union budget on Wednesday, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley articulated the government's focus on spending more on rural areas and building infrastructure.
It has been our mission to bring a transformative shift in the way our country is governed. We have moved, madam, from a discretionary-based administration to a policy and system-based administration. From favoritism to transparency and objectivity in decision-making. From blanket and loose entitlements to targeted delivery, and from an informal to a formal economy.
The Finance Minister also increased funds allocated for scheduled castes by a third to 52,000 crore rupees. He also mentioned that many new enterprises were set up under the Stand Up India program aimed at helping women, Dalit and tribal entrepreneurs.
Government is giving special importance to the implementation of schemes for the welfare of scheduled castes, scheduled tribe and minorities. The allocation of the scheduled caste has been stepped up from rupees 38,833 crores in the budget estimate of 2016-17 to 52,393. इससे मैडम 35% increase SC allocation का इस बजट में है. We are well on our way of achieving 100% village electrification by 1st May 2018. An increased allocation of rupees 4,814 crore has been proposed under the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana for 2017 and 18.
Focusing on housing in rural and urban sector, Jaitley said the government proposed to construct 1 crore houses for the homeless by 2019. In this context, he said the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana allocation has been raised to 23,000 crore rupees from 15,000 crore rupees.
Clear focus on improving accountability and outcomes and convergence, we will undertake a mission Antyodaya to bring 1 crore households out of poverty and make 50,000 Gram Panchayats poverty-free by 2019.
Most of the budget measures were also being seen in line with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's plan to provide 20 million houses across India by 2020. Experts say difficulties in claiming incentives for affordable housing have been removed by these measures. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
While furthering the Election Commission's bid to stem the flow of black money during elections, the Finance Minister announced a slew of steps to bring in transparency in political funding. The Finance Minister said this was a measure to evolve a transparent method of funding political parties, which is vital to the system of free and fair elections.
India may be the world's largest democracy with one of the most elaborate electoral systems, but it has still not been able to evolve a transparent method of funding political parties. In his budget speech, the Finance Minister said transparency was vital for the conduct of free and fair elections and that the government was committed to achieving this.
Political parties continue to receive most of their funds through anonymous donations, which are shown in cash. An effort therefore requires to be made to cleanse the system of political funding in India.
Among the many measures announced, the Finance Minister put a cap on the maximum amount of cash donations that a political party can receive.
In accordance with the suggestion made by the Election Commission, the maximum amount of cash donation that a political party can receive will be 2,000 from any one source. Political parties will be entitled to receive, political parties will be entitled to receive donations by check or in the digital mode from their donors. C, an additional step, and as an additional step, an amendment is being proposed to the Reserve Bank of India Act to enable the issuance of electoral bonds in accordance with a scheme that the Government of India would frame in this regard.
Every political party would also have to file its return within the time prescribed in accordance with the provision of the Income Tax Act. Any existing exemption to political parties from payment of income tax will be available subject to the fulfillment of these conditions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the Union Budget, saying it covered all the sectors of the economy and will facilitate the changes that the country was going through. The Prime Minister said that the budget was devoted to the well-being of the villages, farmers and the poor. He also said that the budget reflected commitment to eliminate corruption and black money. The Prime Minister also appreciated that the housing and small business sectors would gain immensely from the current budget.
रेलवे के मॉडर्नाइजेशन से लेकर के सरल इकोनॉमिक निर्माण करने की दिशा में, शिक्षा से लेकर के स्वास्थ्य तक, उद्यमी से लेकर के उद्योग तक, टेक्सटाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग से लेकर के टैक्स रिडक्शन तक, हर किसी के सपने को साकार करने का ठोस कदम इस बजट में साफ साफ नजर आता है। इस ऐतिहासिक बजट के लिए वित्त मंत्री के साथ साथ उनकी पूरी टीम भी अभिनंदन के अधिकारी है। ये बजट देश के विकास के लिए पिछले 2.5 वर्ष में जो कदम उठाए गए, जो फैसले लिए गए और भविष्य में और मजबूती के साथ आगे बढ़ने के इरादों के बीच ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी है। इस बजट को मैं देख रहा हूं। एक अन्य महत्वपूर्ण कदम है कि रेलवे बजट को जनरल बजट में मर्ज कर दिया गया है। इससे पूरे ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर उसको इंटीग्रेटेड प्लानिंग में मदद मिलेगी। देश में परिवहन से जुड़ी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति में रेलवे अब अपना योगदान और बेहतरीन तरीके से कर पाएगी। ये बजट कृषि क्षेत्र, ग्रामीण क्षेत्र, सामाजिक कल्याण, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इन सभी क्षेत्रों में एक विशेष ध्यान आकर्षित करता है। निवेश बढ़ाने और रोजगार के नए अवसर पैदा करने की दृष्टि से सरकार की जो प्रतिबद्धता है वो इस बजट में साफ साफ नजर आती है। इन योजनाओं के लिए आवंटन में भी बहुत बढ़ोतरी की गई है।
Well, let's now listen into some reactions from the opposition parties.
सरकार ने गरीबों को मारा। एक्सपेक्टेशन थी कि किसानों के लिए, गरीब लोगों के लिए, युवाओं के लिए, बेरोजगार लोगों के लिए कुछ किया जाए, मगर कोई क्लियर विजन नहीं दिख रहा है। जेटली जी ने अच्छा भाषण दिया, मगर बेसिस कुछ नहीं है उसके।
डिमोनेटाइजेशन के बाद बड़े पैमाने पर बेरोजगारी बढ़ी है और जो पहले से रोजगार में थे छोटे मोटे वो भी बेरोजगार हो गए हैं। तो उनको फिर से कैसे खड़ा किया जाए, रोजगार का, नए रोजगार का सृजन कैसे किया जाए, या पुराने रोजगार जो खत्म हुए हैं उनको फिर से कैसे खड़ा किया, इसके लिए कोई योजना नहीं लगती है।
ये तो चुनावी जुमले इसमें भी हो सकते हैं और लगातार हर साल बजट पेश करने की आवश्यकता क्यों पड़ती है आपको? पिछले साल जो कुछ हुआ, कितने कामयाब हो गए आप उसमें? और क्या पिछले बजट में आपने किया था ऐलान कि हम डिमोनेटाइजेशन करेंगे? जिक्र किया था कभी? तो ऐसे बहुत सारी बातें होते हैं कि बजट तो बजट होता है, बीच में आपकी मनचाही बात आप कर सकते हो, कह सकते हो।
Well, that's it on this edition of the News Tonight. Stay tuned. I'll be back with a new episode of The Big Picture on the other side of this break.